probably familiar with the scene where the sub-skipper is looking through the periscope when he suddenly yells out, "Enemy plane approaching fast! Down scope! Dive! Dive!" I'm Lieutenant Frank Kimball, COD's diving officer, and this is the control room, the compartment that contains all the controls used to dive COD, to maintain her depth under the sea, keep her level or trim, as we say, and when it's all clear, to come to the surface again. Basically, a submarine submerges by allowing seawater into ballast tanks outside the boat's pressure hull and creating a situation called negative buoyancy. Controlling the speed and amount of water coming into the tanks determines the speed of the dive. To surface, compressed air is blown into these tanks, driving out the seawater so that the boat will have the positive buoyancy needed to float. The levers that let in seawater for submerging are located port, or what we call the wet side. The valves that drive compressed air into the ballast tanks, forcing the water out and allowing us to surface, are on the starboard, or dry side. The Christmas tree, or indicator board, the black panel with red and green lights located forward on the port side bulkhead, clearly and quickly displays the status of all vents and hatches. A red light means a vent or hatch is still open. Green, that it is properly closed. A green board announcement from a crew member stationed at the Christmas tree means it is safe to submerge the boat. The large levers below the Christmas tree open ballast tank air vents, releasing the compressed air inside, which allows seawater to flood the tanks. The large brass wheels you see on the port side control the diving plane. 2 sets of fins located on each end of the boat, which regulate the steepness of COD's dives and allow her to change depth while submerged. The bubble indicators located on the bulkhead between the brass wheels show the angle of the dive and allow the plane operator to match that angle with the diving officer's orders. My planesmen are so skilled that COD can be at periscope depth in less than 40 seconds. You will also notice the red lights in the control room. These are used throughout the boat at night when we're surfaced, so that the eyes of anyone going topside will already be adapted to the darkness. We call this rigged for red. The control room also contains a plotting table where COD's officers can utilize their charts to determine position and assist the captain in developing the best strategy for attack. The ship's main gyro compass, used for navigation, is set into the plotting table. The large wheel you see forward is the backup helm, which can be used to steer the boat in case the main helm, located in the conning tower above, is damaged. As you can imagine, with a vessel this size, the wheel is very difficult to turn and requires a team of crewmen taking turns in order to steer the boat. The ladder you see in the middle of the control room leads to the conning tower, a 17-foot by 8-foot diameter tube where COD's attacks on enemy ships are directed. It's where the skipper commands up scope to look through the periscope. Actually, COD has 2 periscopes, one for initial or general observation that also has built-in radar, and the attack scope, which is thinner with a smaller head, making it more difficult to see by enemy lookouts. Take a look at our periscopes above the conning tower when you're topside. With 11 people on duty during an approach, it's pretty busy in the conning tower, but you can climb halfway up the ladder and take a peek. Here, in addition to the helmsman or driver of the boat, officers and crewmen stand watch over sonar, radar, the torpedo firing buttons, and COD's highly advanced Torpedo Data Computer, or TDC. Using these sources, plus information from periscope observations, the skipper can set his torpedoes to run very specific and highly accurate angles to the target. With the correct solution light from the TDC, the skipper gives the order to fire. The skipper has just fired 2 torpedoes at an enemy ship, and sonar has picked up an enemy destroyer closing fast. Time to dive and rig for depth charging. Look for something to hold on to if it gets rough, and continue to proceed aft. George Sacco, COD's chief cook and baker. The photograph of the good-looking guy standing by the coffee machine? That's me. You're in COD's after battery compartment, and just like the forward battery, it's named for the 126 cells located below. Now, it's no secret that submariners get the best food in the entire U.S. Navy, but us cooks make it the best chow. 3 settings, 3 times a day, plus that good old Navy coffee and sandwiches and snacks around the clock. Take a look at today's menu posted on the bulletin board and you'll see what I mean. Why, we even keep the oven going all night just to make sure the crew has fresh bread and rolls every day. When I have the time, I like to make pizza for the boys. A lot of them never had a pizza pie until they came aboard COD, but they sure love it now. You might have noticed canned food in various places throughout the boat. We have to carry enough food to feed 90 men or more for 75 days at sea, so every available space is used to store our food. Plus, there's a cold food locker below where we store more than a ton of meat, fresh vegetables, and eggs. The crew mess is where the crew has their regular meals, 24 men at one time. It's also our recreation room, library, and movie theater. That's right, movies. We love them. Our favorite? Well, that one with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, To Have and Have Not. That's a good one. Hit 30 seconds over Tokyo is pretty exciting. time for me to check the temperature gauges. Oh, one more thing. Be sure to let one of our electricians mates in the maneuvering room tell you how the engines and batteries work to power COD. First-class fuelage. Glad to have you here with us in the maneuvering room. You've just seen COD's big GF diesel engine, and as you've probably noticed by now, COD is a very complex vessel. The best technology the Navy has here in 1944. Basically, the maneuvering room is the gas pedal of the boat. The big shiny levers you see on your left control power distribution. The gauges on the panel in front of the control levers tell us exactly what our electric output is and how fast we're going. The skipper uses the motor order telegraphs to tell us how fast he wants COD to go. How fast is COD? On the surface, she's a real speedboat, capable of traveling up to 22 knots or nautical miles per hour. Fast enough to outrun her targets and lie in wait to set up her attack. Underwater, COD can make up to 9 knots per hour, but that speed would quickly deplete the batteries. So she usually travels at 3 to 4 knots when we're submerged, allowing us to stay under for 24 hours or more. And when the skipper gives the order to dive, we cut the diesel engines and engage the batteries. The most important thing to remember is whether COD is running on the surface on her diesel or submerged using battery power, the boat is actually driven by powerful electric motors located under the maneuvering room. She's an all-electric vessel, using diesel-powered batteries to generate that electricity. If you take a closer look at the photograph of the maneuvering room, you'll see that one of the electrician's mates is wearing dungarees that are full of holes. That's because the specific gravity of every one of COD's battery cells has to be tested on every watch, and the battery acid always manages to end up on our pants. Well, I have a feeling we're going to surface soon, so things will get pretty busy here in the maneuvering room. Hope you learned a little about what makes COD go. So long.
COD, but as far as the after torpedo room gang is concerned, it's way out in front in every way. I'm Torpedo Man Second Class Johnny Baker, welcoming you to the after torpedo room. This compartment contains 4 torpedo tubes and 8 torpedoes. Like the forward torpedo room, it's most often a bedroom with 15 bunks for the crew, and also like the forward torpedo room, it's generally cooler and more quiet here than the rest of the boat, making it a great place to sleep. And one interesting piece of equipment is the signal flare ejector, located ahead of the number 8 and 10 torpedo tubes. It works like a miniature torpedo tube and allows the crew to fire signal flares and decoys to confuse the enemy. I suppose you noticed that a lot of the crew are wearing shorts, t-shirts, and sandals. You'll see a pair of those sandals in the display case on the port side. There's a good reason the dress is casual, because as you learned earlier, it can get real hot when we're submerged for a long time. Plus, we don't have enough space to carry a lot of extra sets of uniforms for the men, and our freshwater capacity is too limited to be washing clothes all the time. It doesn't matter though. The officers and crew know who's who and what's what. Well, I'm off watch now, so I think I'll go forward and see what George has cooking on that stove of his. Good to have you on board.